link between Taliban and ISIS? Because the Taliban released from the prisoner from the jail based of U.S. and Taliban agreement. Now Afghan people more worried if the Taliban and ISIS-K, they are friends, it's going to be okay, and still they are friends with the Al-Qaeda too, which is they didn't keep their commitment. Or if not, do you think that it's going to be, started again another civil war in Afghanistan? I don't understand. Taliban and ISIS, they are friends or they are enemy?
I think there's clear historic evidence that they have been enemies in the past. I don't have any assessment beyond what we've said over the last few days about the fact that we have no information to suggest that the Taliban had knowledge of or engagement in the ISIS-K attack. Beyond that, what we have available or what I can speak to as historic precedent. Oh, yes, let me go. Hello. So we have a
U.S. military, the Taliban moved the crowds further away from the airport gates. Several roads were closed because of the possibility of suicide bombers in vehicles, and Afghan families lined up to identify victims of Thursday's attack. More now from CBS's Charlie D'Agata.
They came to Kabul's airport in the hope of escaping this violence. Instead, they fell victim to it. As the staggering death toll soared to at least 170 Afghan civilians, today it was revealed the attack was carried out by a single bomber, believed to be wearing a 25-pound vest of explosives.
We do not believe that there was a second explosion at or near the Baron Hotel, that it was one suicide bomber.
A suicide bomber claimed by ISIS-K, the Afghan branch of ISIS, blamed for the deaths of hundreds of Afghan civilians, most recently the suicide bombing in May of a school that left at least 90 dead, the majority schoolgirls. Vicious attacks well known to Haider Asali, the former chairman of the Afghan Defense Committee. Now he's in hiding. How serious is the threat from ISIS now going forward?
I think it is very serious. We must take them serious. And I think right now they have some capabilities to make challenges in some areas.
Today, a lone Taliban fighter stood among the belongings of the victims of the attack at Abbey Gate, now closed, along with the main road to the airport. Still, desperate Afghans returned, hoping to get a seat on one of the last evacuation planes out. But with most European flights coming to an end today and U.S. flights stopping soon, the emergency exit is quickly slamming shut. A day ago, they were standing in line, hoping to escape. Now, their loved ones are praying they find peace.
And today, on their sacrifice.
It's a worthy mission because they continue to evacuate folks out of that region, out of the airport.
Numerous wounded American soldiers flown to Germany for medical treatment. About 170 civilians also killed in the attack, and there is ongoing concern ISIS might be plotting another suicide bombing as the final 4 days of the evacuation continues. Officials knew of the threat, but still the lone ISIS suicide bomber got through a Taliban checkpoint like this, striking where U.S. soldiers were guarding a gate.
All of that effort, and there was a lot of effort, clearly fell short in some way because this attack was able to be perpetrated.
The Taliban, our enemy, is also enemies with ISIS, and the U.S. is trying to work with the Taliban to better secure the perimeter. The evacuations continue. 300 Americans flown out in the last 24 hours, as well as thousands of Afghan allies and refugees. Homeland Security officials say they're trying to use biometric screening and biographical information to try to ensure those coming here are those in need of help and not those seeking to do harm. Planes arriving in our area, with some refugees being provided support at McGuire Air Base in South Jersey.
And of course, you can hear the gunshots, so things are going beautifully right outside the airport.
Someone in our audience might listen to you, Mr. Secretary, and say, oh, so we have to ask the Taliban for permission for American citizens to leave. True or not true?
They are in control of Kabul. That is the reality. That's the reality that we have to deal with.
How comfortable are you with that, Mr. Secretary?
What I'm focused on, what we're all focused on, is getting people out and making sure that we're doing everything possible to do that. And in this case, it is, I think, a requirement of the job to be in contact with the Taliban, which controls Kabul. What we've seen, Major, is also pretty remarkable. Go back a week. The government fell. And by the way, I was on the phone with President Karzai the day before when he was telling me his intent, as he put it, to fight to the death. Well, the next day he was gone. The military collapsed.
Mr. Secretary, does the president not know what's going on?
This is an incredibly emotional time for many of us, and including allies and partners who've been shoulder to shoulder with us in Afghanistan for 20 years.
So
the Americans have closed all the gates access. There is no access to the airport at the moment, except through one British access point called Camp Barron, which is on the outskirts of the airport, where people are processed there and then moved into the airport once they've been cleared to fly out. Now, that has been the case now for many hours.
that is Sam Kiley of CNN reporting as of yesterday. Sky News also reporting on the chaos and saying, yeah, no, things are not organized out here.
This is an emergency now. It's nothing to do with process. They're just trying to save lives. Tens of thousands are trying to get through. At the front, they're being crushed. Paratroopers pulling people from the mayhem. Medics rushing from the next casualty to the next and the next. The soldiers spray the crowd with a hose, anything to cool them down. Men, women, and lots of children.
Please call someone.
And then what we feared, the inevitable. Is this a stabilized withdrawal from Afghanistan? It looks like death to me.
The Taliban has Taliban has to make a fundamental decision. Is the Taliban going to attempt to be able to unite and provide for the well-being of the people of Afghanistan, which no one group has ever done since before, for hundreds of years? And if it does, it's going to need everything from additional help in terms of economic assistance, trade, and a whole range of things.
Mr. President, what about ISIS and the threat that Americans face?
In case you can't see that, that's the President of the United States walking and doddering out the back door.